Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chiloane has met with several stakeholders to address safety challenges facing the schools in the province. The meeting was to foster dialogue between the education sector, law enforcement agencies, community leaders, parents, and for sustainable solutions to ensure the safety of learners in education. Gauteng MEC of Education Matome Chiloane now joins us. MEC, over 200 schools in the province have been identified as high risk in terms of safety. 200 seems like an awfully high number. Perhaps start by explaining to us what the criteria is to meet the standard or threshold to be considered high risk in terms of safety.
Indeed, 200. Good evening to you and your interviewers. Look, the number is considerably high, of which we fully agree. That's why we then took this decision of really tackling this critical issue in our schools. The criteria that we utilize to determine the risk of the school, the first thing we look at is the community which the school finds itself. When you say high-risk schools, we're not saying the school is high risk. We're saying the schools are at high-risk areas, they're at risk. And so the community, if the area is got riddled with gangsterism, or for instance, today, the area that we're at in the western region, it's plagued with zamazamas, and they're really giving us problems in our schools. We look at the number of incidences that are reported from the school in relation to gangsterism. When we say gangsterism, we're not necessarily saying those that are associated with gangs outside school, but we're also looking at the groupings that are organized within the school boundaries, of which they operate like gangs. We also outline them as well. The number of incidents reported for bullying. We look at learner discipline in general. We look at whenever there's a search and seizure taking place in the school, the kind of weapons or things that we find on these learners. So we look at a broad criteria, and then we categorize them between amber and red. The red are the ones that are in extreme risk. Those ones that are much more difficult. Learner discipline is quite low. And so forth. So yeah, we categorize them, but the 245 is the number that we got.
I mean, some of the gangs in these schools even have names to go by: the Boofs, Amabuto, and Al Francisco. That is typical gang-like behavior when they have an identifying criteria. MEC, there is private security that's being deployed to some of these schools, as well as some of the Gauteng safety wardens. Talk to me about how many schools will be receiving private security to help safeguard the schools, and how many of the other schools will then receive the assistance of the premier's safety wardens in safeguarding those schools.
The schools that we provide private security, it's a temporary measure. We don't provide it permanently. We send them to the school. Sometimes they're there for a week, sometimes they're there for a month, sometimes they're there for about 2 months. It's a temporary intervention that we put in school to stabilize the school, depending on an incident. And usually we react when there's an incident. For instance, there's a school where the local gangs marched into the school, broken down the gate, and began to rob learners. In such a situation, we'll then send this particular private security to the school to stabilize the situation and really bring calm and a sense of safety from the learners. The wardens are supposed to be permanently working with us in all schools. And that was part of the establishment, that they need to assist and safeguard our communities, in particular with the schools. In the morning, they need to be visible in schools. Yeah. In the afternoon, they need to be visible. But more importantly, the critical cog in this strategy that we're implementing is the community. We really need the community to be on board. Once we get them, then we know that we are moving in the right direction in ensuring that we begin to sort out those schools that we have identified as problem schools that are at risk.
You mentioned that the private security intervention is a temporary intervention in the interim, while you hope to be able to fix other things like getting the community on board. How much is the department spending on private security to safeguard schools across the province?
Look, that figure depends. Remember, like I said, they can go for a day, they can go for a week, they can go for a month. So it depends. It depends on the situation.
Okay. How much is budgeted for that purpose?
It's actually an emergency. It's not really. It's an unfunded mandate currently because it's an intervention that we utilize because we don't have much choice unless when, for instance, when there's a stabbing, there's a gang violence and there was stabbing in the school. Obviously, we need to bring in the private security because police can't stay. They're not security guards, so they won't stay in the school the whole day. They'll be there to stabilize the situation and then they leave. When they leave, what happens?
Yeah. MEC, very specifically about the police, and this is my last question. How much assistance are you getting from the police, especially where the threats that you're speaking about are external threats, like Zamazamas? Perhaps also explain to us how Zamazamas, for instance, threaten the safety of a school. That seems like something that the police must be a lot more proactive on.
I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. When we engage the police, I tell them that there's certain requests that I ask them of them. The first one being that, can they give us vans? You know, the police visibility. Give us vans in the morning. When learners come to school, they need to sit and park at the gate. That visibility goes a long way to bring a sense of safety in learners and after school, because that's where most incidences of learner fights happen, immediately after school. So we need them. I've requested that of them. They have started in certain areas, but they have not gone everywhere where I've requested them. And it's something that I've raised with them. Secondly, the area that, another issue that we've raised with them, that it's a concern, when we phone, when the school calls that there's a problem in the school, they take long to arrive. And by the time they arrive, things have happened. Chaos has erupted, children are traumatized. I've said it's quite important for them to really be on standby all the time, especially for our schools. Thirdly, I raised an issue of cases that have been opened by schools at police stations. They have not been concluded. Burglary, vandalism, etc. When these cases are opened, we are expecting that at least there should be some form of feedback as to have they found the culprits, what have they done. And fourthly, we have requested that the random visibility of the police in between schooling hours, after school, even at night, just to patrol around the school during at certain time frames, that will go a long way. And those are things that we have asked of the police, and they're not moving at a pace that is satisfactory to me, but we are moving forward. Since we have started with these individuals, I've seen a lot of progress, yes.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. That's the MEC of Education in Gauteng, Matome Chiloane, bringing us that update. And of course, this is a big problem where communities have to get involved in trying to safeguard and keep our schools safe. More than 200 schools are considered to be at high risk in terms of their safety based on many other factors, but including the communities they find themselves in. And that is of great concern.